I get the feeling that you'll never see me again. Falling again, I'm falling again. I'm falling.
I abstain.
He dogged it.
I
He
plead
dogged
the
it.
fifth.
All right. Coffee sourcing is a game of numbers. How much will you use this week? How much will you use this month or quarter? Will that shipment I'm relying on make it in time? Our guest today is co-founder and CEO of a new startup that aims to help manage these issues called Greensquare. Caleb has an extensive background in coffee and has decided to combine his talents in the industry needs with software developers to help connect coffee producers and suppliers with coffee roasters anywhere in the world. Please welcome to the show today, Caleb Holstein.
Hey, and I tell you what, he's not too hard on the eyes either.
Thank you very much, Shane. Thank you.
Oh, what a good-looking cat.
Yeah, good looking rooster right here. How are you, Caleb?
Well, that's a way to make me feel uncomfortable straight away. Sorry, guys.
That's what we do here on the pod. A
make
lot of
me-
people want to make people feel comfortable. I want to put them on edge right as we
Yeah.
get into it.
Yeah, well, yeah, thanks, boys. It's a pleasure to be here. Sorry, I'm gonna scooch in.
And we forgot it last time on our last pod to say the intro, so we're going to say it in here. Welcome in. I'm Rohan Cook.
And I'm Kirk Pearson, and together,
It's just coffee.
Hey,
I missed it.
No, you got it just then, didn't you? Did you
I
say
missed it. No,
he was scared. He
I was
went-
like timing and I totally missed
let's
it.
go. I'm Kirk Pearson.
I'm Rohan Cook. And
It's just coffee.
There you
I
go.
love that.
Nailed it.
That's how I know that we're getting better as a podcast and people are actually listening, because now when we get the guests coming on, a lot of them are chiming in now with the It's Just Coffee at the start. They know what's up. I mean, I felt like you knew it was coming. You were just a little on edge. I
I
made you
panicked.
uncomfortable. Yeah.
Oh, I panicked. That's
Yeah,
for sure. I
panicked
definitely
hard.
panicked.
Well, before we get into the coffee news, we wanted to sort of just update people, or not update, but we need to renew our vows in a way of trying to get a certain guest on this podcast.
We got to get buckets.
We got to get the buckets
We got to
on.
get that Jimmy Buckets on the show. Now you, number one player, number one team.
Yeah, he's my man. But I actually, I'm only new. It was only pandemic that I got into NBA, and I was like looking at it like, what's going on? There's a guy who has a coffee company. He just started it. I was like, done, I'm in.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm all in. I nearly wore his jersey, but it was a little too fangirly for me. So
No, I reckon that would have been perfect. You
Would've
get
been
him in
good.
there, tag him in the comments, get the big face on the big pod.
100%. Get him here. It's done.
But I also think, sorry, we just both butted at the same time. It's not the first time we've butt together.
My buddies.
We're buddies. Yeah. I also think, we've got Butler outside of the coffee world. What's the biggest name in coffee?
Oh, James Hoffman.
We got to get James Hoffman on the pod.
Jim?
I reckon we can get Jim.
We're on the first name.
Jim. We want you on the pod. The people want you on the pod. They're going to let you know. They're going to tag you. We're going to get you brought in here. We're going to get James Hoffman on the pod. I can feel it.
Yeah, the countdown is on. And, by the time, by the time we're at the level of by the time Jim agrees to come on the podcast, we're going to be, number one podcast in all of eternity, really.
So we've got the goal here. We need to get both of the Jims,
yes.
both of the Jimmies
All the
on the
Jims.
pod.
All the Jims.
Jimmy Hoff and Jimmy
Campaign
Buckets.
Jim.
Yeah, well, I'm all for it. I'll
Jim Squared.
definitely love Jimmy Buckets, Jimmy Butler. He did a little interview with Andrea Allen from Onyx Coffee at La Palma El Toucan, which is a very famous coffee farm in Colombia. And then Jim Seven. James Hoffman was on Coffee for Mirko. Do you know Mirko from Coffee Fixation? He had a little podcast going and he got there. So, I mean, not taking shots at Mirko here, but if Mirko can do it, then so can we.
How is that not taking shots at Mirko?
It's not. It's just not.
Don't take it personally, Mirko, right, dude?
Also, I've just got some news. There's something, obviously, just back from Italy. We talked about it last week. But one thing that happened here while I'm away, some mother bleepers broke into our shop. And
left a few belongings of their own.
yeah,
together.
they came in. This is unbelievable. So this is an old building. One morning, we're just like, the guys come in and they're like, something's not off. Things feel like it's been moved or a bit off. And then all of a sudden, one of the bathroom doors is locked. We're like, No one's here. It's the morning. Who's in the bathroom? Unscrew the door. The roof of the bathroom is missing. These guys have broken in, somehow gotten into the roof. And I got to tell you, I said straight away, these have to be some sketchy blokes if they're coming through the roof. What would be up there? I would not like to see. It'd be like mushrooms growing and fungus and like horrible.
Sketchy, but
They've
imaginative.
come into the roof. And luckily, we've got security cameras. We've got alarm systems. So cops instantly like notified they're coming in. They just escaped up through the roof again. But then we find a little baggie on the ground. So when I said these blokes were sketchy, there's a little empty bag of heroin sitting on the floor in the shop with one of our travel cases gone, and they've left us a little bag of
How are you so certain it's heroin?
Well, we had to try it.
I was about to ask. I was like, I don't know if I could just eyeball and be like, you know what? That's heroin.
Well, if you know golden brown coffee, there's a certain song, golden brown, text, and it's not talking about coffee. It's talking about the H. It's talking about the big H. And this was a little brown powder. And I mean, all I can say is found in the bathroom from where they broke in. It's a little tiny square drug baggie and it's got brown powders in it. So maybe if there's something else out there that's a brown powder that I don't know about, let us know.
Maybe they just brought some vanilla sugar because they were like, oh, I don't know.
Oh my God, this is a company trying to get us to promote their coffee. They're just leaving in little bags of grounds.
Yeah,
coffee grounds.
Maybe you've got it all wrong. Maybe it was a best of Panama sample and they really wanted you to have it.
Well, do you want me? Probably is best of Panama. And you know what? Why don't we cook it up right now and we'll get you to taste it and we can get some of those tasting notes from you.
Does that count as infused coffee though? Where do we land on that?
I think it's called laced coffee.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So I might leave that one with you. But look, hey, let's get into the coffee news now, shall we?
In coffee news, golden brown broken into and a bag of heroin left at the top. Sorry, go ahead, Kirk.
All right, Starbucks are trialing new reusable cups in California. So the coffee giant is teaming up with over 24 businesses to test, borrow, and return beverage cups across Petaluma, California. When customers purchase beverages to go at any of the participating restaurants, they'll be served in free, reusable purple cups that can be returned at one of 60 drop-off bins located around the city. All return cups will be professionally washed, sanitized, and put back into circulation until the project ends on October 28. So, we'll give them a clap. I think this is one thing as an industry we need to get better at, and it's kind of like you want to have one system so everyone can use it, but you also don't want to have a monopoly. So,
it's a hard system. Yeah, it's something, again, they're doing it in a small market, seeing how it can work, trying to figure it out. I think that's how you have to do it. Good on them for doing something. They also bought out their cups. We talked about it a few episodes back where they bought out a cup using 20% less plastic, more usable, more accessibility friendly to both buyers and the baristas behind the counter and that kind of thing. So, are they doing it because of the pressures that are put on them as a big company? Sure. But is it good when you can see a big company making the steps to make these changes? It's like when people complain that a company has it in their policy that they donate a percentage of their profit to charity. And they're like, oh, you're just doing this to get customers. Who cares? If the money's going to the charity, can we not all just be happy for a second?
Yeah, they're doing it nonetheless.
Yeah, doing it nonetheless.
They're at least attempting something. They're trying to make a change or make an impact in the sector. So I'm all here for it. I really like to hear that they're being professionally cleaned. As someone who has had their sponge license in hospitality for over 18 years now, I'm glad to hear my comrades are taking care of the cleaning. That's great.
And one thing I'll add, I think we've already spoken about this once before, but Keep Cup, the perfect Keep Cup strategy, if you have a sticker with your name and your coffee order on it, it will help the baristas get that thing out a lot quicker. Also, it's not every Keep Cup's the same size, but every takeaway coffee really should be the same size.
Oh, yeah.
For portion control and recipes and all that sort of stuff. So if you order an 8-ounce latte, but you bring a 16-ounce cup, you're not getting that sucker filled up. You're getting 8 ounces of coffee.
Yep, absolutely.
That's the way this rolls. That's how we do.
That brings up a good point about, we did a little video a while ago that got some good conversation around it. It applies to all coffees, but the long black, why am I getting a long black in a, 6-7 ounce cup in the store, and then when I order a takeaway, I'm getting a 10-ounce long black filled to the top with boiling water? That isn't the same drink. That isn't what I ordered. I want the right ratio of water to coffee in the cup, and I think that applies across a few different things, both getting different milk-based sizes from
the perfect solution there is just drink filter coffee. Fast free. Long blacks are out.
I've heard you're on a mission to kill the long black. Yeah. But I'm still here for them.
Yeah,
I'm
I
still
love
here
a
for
long
long
black.
blacks. Yeah.
I was going to add to that when you get a takeaway long black, do you notice if the crema's been like, water first, then coffee over the top? Because I'll look in, I'll be like, if I see some crema still like on there, I'm like, they know what they're doing.
The takeaway is always a tough one. That one gets dissipated. If they do the right ratio, you can still keep a decent crema on the top.
But what about if you get the takeaway long black and it's filled all the way up? So there's like no margin for error. You're burning your tongue.
You do, and it's also because of the ratio of boiling water. Normally, it's like 2 parts water, 1 part espresso. In those takeaway cups, it's like 5 parts water to 1 part espresso, and it is ripping hot.
How good's batch brew?
Enough for this guy. I cannot
love
do this
batch brew.
podcast with you anymore. But I do just quickly want to go back to the reusable cup situation on doing that. We've seen another company do it here. I think I've seen a few cafes where they have to take a cup, bring it back.
Yeah.
You put down like a $5 deposit. It might have been one of the siblings of the Keep Cup.
Yeah, I think Husky had tested that out. Definitely in New South Wales, I've seen that. They had the Husky swap where you could drop them back and kind of rotate them around as well.
But do we think, if anyone can do it, Starbucks being such a big chain that people probably go to religiously, maybe they have a chance. I think it's a great effort by them. I don't know. Introducing that behavior is going to be difficult. And that change and understanding. Enough times I just leave my Keep Cup at home and I'm out on the street and I'm like, oh, are we getting a coffee? Then it's like, crap, I don't have the Keep Cup with me because I don't just carry it with me everywhere. It's a hard behavior to instill.
Yeah, I'm the exact same. I've left the amount of Keep Cups I own or Husky Cups or all the brands of cups. There are other providers. I literally have a car full of them. I'm the worst at it. So,
well, I just drink all my coffee done in. So, maybe just do that.
That's true. The Italian style. Just get it at the bar, espresso, knock it back and go.
All right. Well, in other news, adding coffee to cement. University students at the Royal Melbourne Institute of Technology have experimented adding coffee to cement. The results appear to be making concrete up to 30% stronger. Now, this is interesting news because I was once watching a documentary about the Great Wall of China, and apparently they would ground rice up and then add that to their cement mixture or whatever, and that sort of made it stronger as well, like rice powder, or I think. I could be completely wrong and just butchering this, but I'm pretty sure.
I'm going to take it as fact. I think it's 100% true.
I believe it. I'm in.
But can I just say, if there was a startup out there that's doing this and they wanted unlimited supply of coffee, cafes will give it to you for free.
100%.
Because it just goes into the bin and, I know there's a service, I think called Reground.
Reground could team up with them, supply some coffee to turn into concrete.
Yeah, but Reground charge you, I believe. Yep. And, that's all well and good. Yep. And it's a wonderful thing, not knocking them at all. But if you make a service where it's 100% free for the cafe, you've got a lifetime supply of this coffee. And it is good. It's good quality product that could be repurposed to anything. So, you look at here with cement, I think you can even do it for biofuel. Making mushrooms is another purpose. Like, we've got to find a way to reuse a lot of these coffee grounds because you've got an unlimited supply, and 2, you're helping people out by doing it.
Yep. I think that's great. We should push for that. Let's get that started. Reground, if you want us to stop talking about it, we are open for sponsorship. We can take that on board as the podcast. Just putting it out there.
Yep. No, I like it.
Also, delicious. This sounds like some Willy Wonka kind of stuff here. People are going to be licking the walls. This is amazing. I wonder if it's, give me a coffee aroma from my concrete walls as we cement walls.
Yeah, for me, I think it's sick to see people like you said, innovating with that waste, innovating with just byproducts of what to do. I think I was in London, would have been 10 years ago. And the biggest thing I noticed, they were trying it with London buses for biofuel. So using coffee waste as an element in biofuel as well. So I'm all here for it. And yeah.
Amazing. Sustainable, very sustainable news segment that we have going on this week. Are we jumping into some questions here?
Yeah, let's get into the nitty gritty.
So we have to get in some questions. We've got Caleb here. And the first question that we have to ask everyone is, Caleb, what are you ordering? What's your coffee go-to order?
Flat white.
There you go.
Yep. Straight up, flatty. Nice and simple. The Aussie classic, not New Zealand.
Oh, there we go.
That was a low shot.
Now, what are we saying? So we're saying here the Australian is officially... the Australian? There we go. The newspaper, The Australian, is officially a flat white.
The news,
The Australian. No, so the flat white.
It's Australian. Yeah.
Not New Zealand, no matter what you've heard.
Yeah.
It's Australian. It was actually made up, I think, in Queensland, and it was actually Italian farmers that were working up there that had come that were asking for it in a local cafe. It then moved down into Sydney. There's the background of the flat white. There's where it comes from. So New Zealand, I'm sorry. There's a lot of things that you invented that we've taken credit for.
Neil Finn.
Yep, Neil Finn. Russell Crowe.
That's top of the list.
Throwing phones at people. But the flat white is Australian, and that's our claim to fame.
Done. I didn't have any of that history. I was just purely taking a stab in the dark that I love it and I want credit for us.
Yeah.
But backed up. Thanks, man.
Yeah, you're welcome.
But into the nitty gritty of it, Caleb Holstein's here. Pleasure to have you on. You've been hard at work. I've known you for a while now.
Yeah, mate.
And, you know, we're from the same hometown. The
Central Coast finest.
Central Coast of New South Wales. That's about an hour north of Sydney.
Yeah.
Beautiful beaches.
Reigning A-League champion, treble winners. You know, we've got it all.
Yeah, Mariners.
Had to get it in there. So.
Yeah, no. Work that one in. But you've been working on something a little bit different to what you were doing when you and I first met.
Yeah.
So you've had an evolving coffee career. So you're developed a program called Greensquare. Could you give us an elevator pitch as to what that is?
Yeah. So as you mentioned, I've kind of had a career all through hospitality, operating my own cafes and businesses, and then getting into roasting and consulting. What we've developed over the last 3 years with Greensquare and my co-founders is a software that helps coffee roasters to plan, budget, manage, and forecast all of their green coffee needs, connecting them with suppliers, connecting them with producers, everything in that range, and just helping to de-risk purchasing and managing green coffee, which is the largest cost center for a coffee roaster.
Interesting. So the user logs on. How does it work?
Yeah, so you log on to Greensquare, you get access to a range of different suites of tools and features, basically allowing a roaster to track everything of their green coffee. So you can source from the widest range of coffees. We're seeing a big change in the coffee market. I'm sure there's probably been talks about it or you've heard about it, but coffee's getting expensive. And what does that mean? How do we track that? So it's highlighting if we miss something or make a mistake with our green coffee purchasing, it can drastically affect the quality, the price, and kind of our entire roasting business as a coffee roaster. So, yeah.
I'm going to go a little off script here. So we of course, we ask people when they come in, the highlight of the podcast is always the extra hot take with 2 sugars. And you were talking to us before. I'm really going to throw you under the bus here because you elaborated that there was a extra hot take with 2 sugars that you didn't want to say, and you explained it to us. And you've got your actual one that you're going to say, but I'm going to ask you for your extra hot take with 1 sugar.
Sugar,
because it's a great way to sort of start this off and to.
This is why you don't tell us anything.
I know.
We throw it right back in your face.
But it's kind of like it. But it's actually going to be a really good way to kind of highlight what you do is really why it's really important. So. You were saying?
Yeah. So the big challenge here is roasters are dealing with a lot of challenges in sourcing green coffee. So this comes from a point of compassion and understanding the challenges. A roaster's time is fraught. Coffee roasters are built to roast and sell and serve amazing coffee. And the actual supply and purchasing of green coffee is a cumbersome and time-consuming task that involves a lot of risk and is really hard. My 1 sugar hot take would be, if a coffee roaster thinks they're playing the market, they're not. The market's playing them. So
you just got played.
Explain that.
So the coffee market is traded, Arabica is traded on the New York commodities. We do have Robusta, which is traded on the London, but a roaster will go, I'm waiting for the market to change, in the sense of like, I'm waiting for the price to drop to buy my coffee, to book my contracts, to purchase coffee, or I'm waiting for something to move. And unless they're actually investing in buying future contracts and hedging contracts on the commodities exchange, which is extremely expensive and risky and time consuming, and something I do not recommend unless you're willing to put that level of investment into it. And this is like Nestle, Starbucks level investment. Then you're just waiting for something to happen and you're not taking control of your purchasing and your management. So we're trying to build the resources and provide resources so you can feel comfortable to do that and to not be caught out that, hey, the market jumped. Last week, the market jumped. It was about, worked out it was about 90 cents in a day. And that's 90 cents on the base price. So that's crazy.
And so the thought there just being that you're waiting for stuff to change, but hey, it might just go up even further.
Yeah, and it's by waiting, we're not setting our budget. So if we can set our budgets and go, hey, if it's good for me to buy and I can make it in my budget, then commit to it.
Yeah.
And by giving roasters tools to feel more confident to commit longer, we're actually helping our entire supply chain, because then producers are getting more consistent and larger volume purchasing. So forecasting and like pre-booking contracts traditionally was for the big end of town in coffee roasters, and the smaller guys didn't have to worry because there was spot coffee and those things were always available. And that's not the same anymore. Like the cost of storing a spot coffee, which means basically an importer brings the coffee in with no one having pre-bought it, has gone up about 4 to 5 times. So the cost for them to do that has increased rapidly. Right. So they're not doing it anymore. So we're getting like calls, we're getting people reaching out every week going, I need to buy a container of coffee, and no one's got it because they're not bringing it unless you book and forecast now.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty wild time out there, but there is a lot of opportunity. There is a lot of ways that roasters can kind of protect themselves from this and work with their suppliers. But yeah, it's hard. It's hard.
Also, just rewinding back, I wanted to know, how did you two cats know each other? What were you doing before? I know you said you knew him well before all this, but what was that?
I think we met in Sydney. We were from the coast, but we met in Sydney pandemic time.
Yeah, around then.
Yeah, shout out to Bora Gin, I think, introduced us.
Yeah. Well, I was living in Melbourne, and then during Australia was a very lockdown city for those abroad at the time, and then I decided to move back to with my family on the Central Coast in New South Wales, and I wasn't working in coffee for a little while. I was actually working in a chemical factory, packaging chlorine into buckets of all things.
Mate, I feel like you're just lying to me. I feel like every time we have a different podcast, you tell me like a different job. The other day you were telling me that you used to deliver food for an Indian takeaway restaurant.
Yeah.
Now you're telling me you're a chlorine guy. Then you were telling me you're a milkman. Yeah. Then you're a coffee guy. What?
I think it's a Central Coast thing. Like the amount of random jobs that I have in my career.
Well, this was back in the old Sub-Zero coffee days, and kind of, long story short, I got steamrolled by the pandemic financially.
Yeah.
And
had to get in the chlorine. Where the big bucks are. Everyone knows it. Big money chlorine.
No, I was packaging chlorine into buckets, and I was driving a forklift at the time. And then, I was applying for different jobs, and then eventually started working for a friend of the podcast, River and Fresh, milk company. So I was a milkman for a little bit.
Best milk going around.
And I think it was during my milkman days, or maybe it might have even been when I did a bit of work for Honor Coffee as well at their Sydney store.
I actually remember our first meeting.
Okay.
So another shout out, all the shout outs today. Shout out to Central Coast Coffee Roaster legend.
Oh, that's right.
So I was doing a bit of contract roasting and roasting on one of their machines. It was like in the front of their shop. So you'd walk in and people could chat to you, but pretty antisocial when I roast. So I just have my headphones on.
As you'd have to be.
Yeah. And Bora was like, oh, there's a guy who I'm working with. He's a legend and he's from the coast. He wanted to meet you and have a chat. And I was like, oh yeah, sweet. But I'm so antisocial. Sorry to everyone. So I'm like, yeah, sweet, whatever. That'd be cool. And then literally you walked up to me when I was roasting and introduced yourself, and then we just got on like a house on fire.
Well, that's funny because at the top of the Carryong Hill where that is the chlorine factory. So I was just on my way to work.
All roads lead to chlorine factory.
It's the top of the peak.
It sounds like the only thing we do on the Central Coast now is make chlorine, I guess. But
yeah, well.
All right, now back to buying green coffee. Yeah. Now, for an idiot like me, looking into this, if you're a small or a larger roaster, what are kind of the biggest challenges that they would face that you think that you can kind of alleviate that with? Like, how can you help? Like, what are the challenges they're going to face and how can you help out there?
Yeah. So my background, I worked as like a consultant for roastery, so helping them kind of build their blends, match profiles, and purchase their coffee. I love Excel spreadsheets, and any roaster or green coffee buyer.
You don't hear that said often.
Green flag.
Yeah. Is that a green flag? I don't know.
A man who knows his way around his spreadsheet. Okay, in my book.
It makes me really awkward because I'm like, I let my little nerd out a little bit there. But I believe any coffee roaster or green purchaser worth their salt over the last few years have had to be really good at spreadsheets.
Yeah.
And I actually had a few clients approach me in 2018 and asked to buy my spreadsheets. And I was like, oh my God, I thought that was the coolest thing ever. But it was literally I would just manually put data in of what's in a blend. So each of the components, the price, the percentage of the blend, and then have calculators to tell me what my cost was going to be from it. And the biggest challenge that we did with that is I was like, okay, $200. And they're like, yep, sure. I was like, sick. I don't know how to sell a spreadsheet. And then a few months later, I checked in with them. I was like, how's it all going? How are you finding it? To just track what your raw elements are and your raw costs. And they weren't doing it anymore. And I felt bad because I was like, well, you paid me, but you're not doing it. So the biggest thing that it is these spreadsheets are all manual inputs, and it just takes more time off a coffee roaster to do this. And they're having to collate all of this data and information. So we've done some research, and the average coffee roaster in Australia in a calendar year will buy from 5 to 6 different importers. So they'll buy from 5 to 6 different sources and have to get all that data pulled together just to figure out how much their coffee is costing them. So what we look to do is basically create a single place where you can manage this, and also have some automations that can alert you about drawdown. Maybe you need to book more. Yeah. Maybe you're running out. Can do some automatic calculators for you for costing and things like that. So.
Oh, that's cool. So you get like a little ping when it's like, hey, you've probably used this much of your coffee. You need to order more. Because that, man, I tell you what, there's nothing worse than when you get the call and you're like, hey, so we're down to our last 10 kilos of coffee. And you're like, we haven't ordered any. We don't have anything.
Yeah, it's the biggest thing for a roaster is like, when do we need to order and how often are we ordering as well? So it just kind of helps with some planning and scheduling for that.
And it goes to show like how the market's evolving. As you were just saying, the cost of holding coffee has increased dramatically. And now someone like you is in a position to help them navigate that process. We actually had, while Rohan was away, we had Mark Dundon on the podcast, and he did actually mention your program. He said,
oh, did he? Thanks, Mark.
It'll be interesting. He said, it'll be interesting to see how Greensquare works and how, because I think I believe they're on at 7 Seeds.
Yeah, so Mark's registered, and we're kind of doing some early stage work together. So it's super exciting. We're lucky we have some like early innovators is what I'd call them. It kind of sounds nice, but it's true because at the moment there is a lot of risk in the market. So we see the biggest coffee importers in the world, and there's a disparity between who has access to data and who owns data. And what our goal with Greensquare and our technology is to democratize access to technology. So the biggest companies in the world have been tracking and managing their green coffee like this forever because they can't afford to make that risk. But the smallest and the medium size and companies growing haven't had access to it. So, largest traders in the world have software that they can use, but that software costs them, hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars in some case to run. So we tried to create a widely available and accessible one for everyone to have one technical language, which is nice for developers to understand. But yeah.
And so you kind of outlined how like a coffee roaster or someone in Australia would benefit from using that. How does a coffee producer benefit?
Yeah, so at the moment we're only live in Australia. We are looking to go international with the software with some of the new features hopefully next year. We'll see how we go with that. But yeah, so what it works is for an importer, it's about they can hop on the platform, they can list their products, and they can use kind of 2 different features at the moment. They can use our marketplace, which we launched at the start of last year. So for spot coffees, you can list all your coffees. They can have all the details. They can request samples. You can get quotes. You can do it all live on the platform. With that negotiation, we create instant digital contracts. So just removing workload that doesn't add value. So instead of you talking to a supplier, going back and forth, and then getting them to like fill out a paper document and send it to you to sign, you agree on it. As soon as both parties agree, our software kind of reads the whole negotiation and makes an instant digital contract. That's for digital signing, and that becomes the place where you actually track your inventory as well. So it's kind of that spot that it consolidates that. The new feature, which we literally just launched at the moment, allows a roaster to, instead of having to search, hundreds of coffees on a marketplace, a roaster's time poor and they go, hey, these are the suppliers I want to work with. I just want to tell them what I'm looking for and then let them offer stuff.
If there's like an app that someone would use in their everyday life, not at all related to coffee, what would you most like in Greensquare too?
It's always hard because it's not quite the same. A lot of the apps that we use or people would get compared to a B2C, so like business to consumer. This is a B2B, so it's like a relationship. You talk to anyone, like anyone in coffee or in green purchasing, the most important thing is the relationships, the relationship with the importer, the relationship with the producer, and having those longevity of relationships. So we're just the documentation tool of that relationship. So in the marketplace feature, it is like social media. So it's like you can see a trader's products, but you can't see commercially sensitive details till you connect. So you have a connection, and then once you've connected, they can see some of your details, like your name, your contact. They can call you and interact with you, but then you can actually see their prices and their availabilities and things like that as well.
So it's Tinder. So it's show me your beans, I'll show you mine.
Maybe Tinder. Yeah. I was thinking more like early stage MySpace, but
Oh, there you go.
Okay.
Oh, wait, do you have like top 9 friends on there and stuff?
not
like,
yet. But
you can move them around. If deals go bad, you can drop someone out of your top 9.
it's not quite that, but you literally will be able to have your traders.
Oh,
So
there
like
you go.
in the next suite that's getting pushed at the moment is as a roaster, you can go awesome. There's heaps of good suppliers and importers, but these are the ones I like, and you can like have them internally ranked. No one else sees it, but you and your team know they're the guys we work with.
Do you have Tom on there selling coffee?
Not yet.
Okay.
But we are open to you.
Tom, MySpace Tom, you've gone off, you're living in like some hut on a beach somewhere, being a billionaire.
I read an
Get on the
amazing thing
marketplace.
that he sold it and then
He
he
did.
just did photography or something.
Yeah,
Was that-
he just made like 500 million or something at that early stage, and just like was like he wasn't this person who had the ego to make another bigger thing and do
Yeah.
whatever. He was like, "See you guys, I can live now."
And
That's
for
a
the
lot.
kids of today, that was bigger than Facebook at the
Yeah.
time.
Oh,
Much
man.
bigger.
I literally
Profile songs. Oh, man.
Yeah.
I miss it, to be honest.
Yeah, take me back. Oh, speaking of, Kirk went back to his it lasted like 2 weeks, but Kirk gave up on iPhones and just went to a Nokia 3310 just with Snake in that. And I just got the message, he's like, can't talk anymore via this. Got to just send me a text message. I'm on the Nokia. 2 weeks later, I'm back on the iPhone.
Well, they actually they're switching the network on which those phones operate off in Australia. So, I mean, I'm sure there's another one, but far out. Like, I enjoyed it for the disconnection. That's what I got it from. But running a business now, it's like, sadly, it's so goddamn hard to do.
Yeah.
Oh,
Let's get a couple pigeons, Kirk, honing
send some homing
pigeons.
pigeons.
there's a hole in
Same.
the roof. They can just come straight in.
Yeah.
Great.
It'll be fine.
dumb. I didn't think of that. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
So before you were telling us, I had a question, but you're telling me that you get a little bit excited by spreadsheets. So that starts to answer a little bit of it. But how did the idea for this come about? What made you press go? Because obviously it's a big, challenging kind of thing to set up. How did it come about?
So this gets a little bit philosophical and things like that for me.
Please.
I was raised by hippies, so this is where it all comes through, and
And hippies love apps. So you
shines
were
through.
like-
Yeah, hippies love apps. But the thing for me was I realized in my career, I, from the Central Coast, would go down to Sydney to start working in coffee. And there was this cool club of coffee professionals at the time. And I worked really hard to get into it. And I started to roast for them. I had an opportunity, which is a cool shout out, to roast for Paul Bassett, Australia's first ever barista world champion. And I worked really hard to get in there. And then I kind of realized that our industry didn't have an education structure. And this kind of leads back to what Kurt mentioned before about the timing that we met. I wanted to start to create things in our industry that gave people pathways to improve or to have more knowledge or visibility on things they were doing. So I started a project in Marrickville just before the pandemic, which was a communal roastery. And turns out within, about a year, we couldn't commune. And so I just got dragged through the coals of financial stress, all those jazz, realizing that wasn't sustainable. But the other project that we had at the same time was literally how do we help people buy and manage coffee? So it was at the same time we had that. And as I was wrapping that business up, I realized I didn't want to be a sideline. I didn't want to give up on trying to help people and trying to solve this. So it was at that time I had people contacting me about buying my spreadsheets. And I was like, I can, but it's a spreadsheet, dude. This isn't good enough. And then the way the wonderful coffee industry works, and something I'd recommend to everyone in the coffee industry, is keep good relationships with people. Someone from, I think it was Lama Zocco, met this German guy and was like, oh, you should talk to Caleb about this, because they were software engineers. And they did. And we had lots of late nights drinking beer because my business wasn't doing very well at the time. So I was like, yeah, I can stay up late and talk about something else. So we did that, and we kind of got some traction that there's something here we could do. So then we talked to a bunch of different people in the industry once again, because we had good relationships. Shout out to Saxon Wright from Pablo and Rusty's, was a really early kind of partner and someone who was working with us.
I'm going to have to revoke your shout out card.
Yeah,
you've
I've
used
won
it up.
way too many.
There's 6
sorry.
shout outs.
Give him one more.
Okay, one more shout out. left on
I'll
the
use
card.
it really well.
Yeah, thank you.
But yeah, so he spent a lot of time with us as well, looking at the project and kind of understanding the need for it in the market. And then I sold my business and wrapped everything up, and we raised some capital and went for it.
So what's the process like in the lead up to it? And when, then decide, because I imagine it's quite nerve wracking, because first you got to develop it, and then you're going all in now.
Yeah.
And what's that like and then pressing, like literally launching.
Yeah, it's wild. So we did like a bit of like kind of pre-registration. So we had we had about 50 people who had registered to use it before it was live. We gave out some like free access in the early stages for things like that. So we kind of de-risked it a little bit in that sense, but we raised money from people that were like, yeah, this needs to work. So that was pretty stressful to be like, okay, cool, these guys are backing it. That's nice. And I'd never done anything like that. It was literally like Shark Tank or Dragon's Den, if you've ever watched them, where it's like in rooms pitching to people. And it's like I'm sitting at a table with very, very well-off and smart people and trying to convince them. In my head, it was always like, I'm trying to convince you to give an over-ambitious dishwasher money to build a software to change the way that coffee's traded. So I don't have a pen license. I never got my pen license, but
you look like someone who hasn't got
literally,
pen license.
but I would like hundreds of thousands of dollars for this. So,
as I sit here with my pencil, I
feel very comfortable that you removed all pens from the table before we started.
Yeah, just to make you comfortable. But I think from sitting from the outside looking in, I think your pitch probably had the strength to it where it's like, there's a hole in the market. There's something missing there. There's something that can be improved upon. Or is that wrong?
Yeah, I think that's where we landed. Like we kind of hit the niche that like everyone experiences these challenges, but there's no compounding way for a company that scales through those challenges to be able to reduce the risk and cost as they scale through them. So everyone starts from zero and there's no structure to kind of compoundly learn as an industry how we want to structure these things. So yeah, it was a gap. There was an option there. It was just one of those things where we kind of decided, if not us, then who? And it sounds really lame, but if not now, then when? Because roasters are at risk with their green coffee purchasing. Producers are at risk in origin because there's challenges in the supply chain that they're not having enough visibility of where things are going. So like the sector needs software, and that's why we founded a dedicated agricultural software provider. So Greensquare is part one of what we're doing.
Well, I mean, we're going to get into the Shark Tanky thing here. I'm going to like get you to pitch further on this. So you've talked about how you can kind of set it up and what it can do, but beyond that, in the long term, what kind of effect could this program and that have on the actual coffee industry? And how is it going to change the coffee industry, or do you foresee it kind of helping change?
Yeah, so
there you go. Throw you under the bus with that one. Get you with the deep questions, baby.
I actually love that question. Dude.
Okay,
like honestly, it means it's a nice opportunity because the challenge that we have as a software company for the sector is we have to plan for the future, but we have to live in the now. So we're building the steps for us to get there. And right now we're focused on coffee roasters. We need coffee roasters because we looked at the entire supply chain, and the largest value proposition is at this end of the supply chain because there's the most money to be saved and the most resources available from them to be able to apply software. But we do see a long breadth of where we can actually innovate up and down the supply chain. Long-term goals is what we see is there's something at the moment that is super nerdy and maybe general coffee consumers might not know about it or care about it. But there's a thing called the European Union's deforestation regulations, which have come in. Sounds super cool. And what they did was they go, hey guys, nothing on the shelf in supermarkets in Europe can be attributing to deforestation. And that's a law as of, they come in at the end of this year. And they said, yep, that's what we're doing. And they push it all out. Sounds awesome. But
until,
cliffhanger. But what's happening is this turns around, that the roaster turns around to their importer and says, I can't buy that coffee unless you can prove that it doesn't attribute to deforestation. Importer turns around to producer and says, can't buy your coffee unless you can prove that. So what we've done is we've just pushed the problem down the supply chain to our smallholders. We have over 12.5 million smallhold producers in the coffee industry alone in the world. And we're pushing our Western agenda on them to go solve our problems. We're not going to pay anymore.
Yeah.
We're not going to give you any more resources to do this. And it's creating consolidation. So what's happening is we're seeing regions where it's extremely hard to kind of prove that and to have the technology to prove that, like Africa, certain parts of South and Central America, more Central America, actually signing off that their importer, which is maybe a multinational, can access data about their land. So then the person you're selling it to as a smallholder knows more about your land than you do.
Yeah.
And like talking to some people with their satellite technology, an amazing Aussie company from CSIRO do it for the wheat sector at the moment. They can scan with satellites on a farm and tell you what crop of wheat you have, what's the yield within like a 5% accuracy, the moisture content of your soil. They can do all this and knowing it about your land. And then we're deciding that those people are going to be able to negotiate the price with you.
That is wild. And there's one thing I know about Kirk Pearson is this boy likes his privacy, does not want people diving in. Tell us what you think about that. They can tell what their soil density is like.
It's fucking terrifying.
Yeah.
But in a way, like it's wonderful technology.
Amazing technology if we can actually democratize access to it. Because right now, who gets access to that? It's the top 1%.
Yep.
And like growing up on the Central Coast, we weren't part of the top 1%. So we want to make this foundation where your technical footprint is yours to own, and you decide who you share it with, when you share it with them, and you own that. So
my next question was going to be what layers do you plan to add to the software? So you're planning to do things that'll help them manage those additional regulations in different jurisdictions, sort of thing, or
those are definitely in the roadmap, but it is a lengthy roadmap. The shorter roadmap is the ability that we're decoupling the way that a roaster can manage and forecast their coffees. So the first goal is to enable coffee roasters in Australia and, by next year, hopefully around the world, to be able to manage, plan and track all their coffee and increase their ability to purchase longer term contracts. So if we can increase the length of contract that a roaster buys, no matter what coffee they buy, who they buy it from, then we're giving a longer kind of runway to our producers and our exporters. And then from there, the world's our oyster of what we can do. The big dream for me, and eventually, how does a coffee producer add value to their coffee? Historically, let's put a new liner on the bag so it lasts better, things like that. Let's change the size of our packaging. We do smaller bags. Let's do co-fermentations. Let's do different processes. Let's try different varietals, all of these ways. The future for a coffee producer, in my mind, and hopefully the world, they can add data to their product. If they can add traceability data that they own, like it came from here, then there's more value for them to sell it. Because right now, a producer who can sell a coffee into Europe with data is more valuable than a producer who can't. So let's give them ways to do it.
I do always find that kind of stuff interesting where like giant kind of blanket laws are introduced where it kind of makes sense for giant producers or giant companies, but no one's really thinking it out on the smaller scale of like other things where it's like, this is a little more complicated than just no to deforestation, because most of these places probably aren't attributing maybe to deforestation, but they don't have the credits or whatever to kind of prove it.
Exactly. And it's one of those things like, for example, the way you harvest coffee is you like cut back certain crops every I think it's 6 or 7 years depending on the coffee in the region, but you could be cutting back your crop, which to a satellite looks like
looks like deforestation. Looks like deforestation.
Yeah. Or you could be planting a non-native, which is more detrimental to the soil, which isn't deforestation, but isn't actually improving the environment. So it's pretty crazy.
Now, I don't always love the glorious side of the projects and how amazing it's all going. I like to hear hard yards, where it gets difficult. What have been the hardest points of starting this up, both from setting it up, but just from starting a business? We've talked to Kirk about it. It's tough. It's hard. Were there any points where you're like, I give up. This might not work. This might be too difficult.
Yeah. Weekly.
Just 5 minutes ago.
Yeah. So the biggest challenge for us, this is a company, I've had other businesses before, run other businesses, things like that. But this company, we raised capital, like the Shark Tank. So getting the confidence to have those conversations and to do that was hard and is still hard.
That'd make me so nervous, having the responsibility of other people's money, and they're like, you lose this, that's my life savings.
Yeah. So that's crazy. But then also we've tried to raise capital in the hardest capital market that's been the last 10, 15 years. So that was pretty wild. Having an international team. So I work on 2 time zones. So my German team are waking up right now, my co-founders. So I'll, start getting messages from the boys. Learning that dynamic and learning how to build that into my life, and how do I function where my customers are in Australian time and then my development team are overnight. It presented a unique opportunity when we looked at it. We're operating 20 hours of a day. So there's not many businesses that can do that. So we're lucky with that, but I don't know. I'm a bit of an optimist, so.
Mate, I used to do that stuff with like production companies when you were working with teams that are overseas. Like, it's going to be perfect. You leave the notes, we work on it while you sleep, then you get the edits. No, it never works that smoothly. It's always a bloody nightmare.
Yeah, it does have its challenges, and it took us time to get into a rhythm. It does help that we have like two clear areas. So like because we're kind of front end business operations and they're development, I can't tell them how to develop or what to develop. I can kind of just tell them what we need functionality. Needed. So
and I guess after the pandemic, like all the workability, like all the programs, and with
for sure, it's getting easier by the day.
You ever feel like you're doing the wrong thing?
Yeah, literally every day, bro. Every day.
So, give us an example where it's like.
So the first thing we built was a marketplace for spot coffee. Spot coffee's not there anymore. Like literally, people invested lots of money. We built a marketplace where you could see all the coffees, but the amount of those coffees is just dwindling at the moment because it's so expensive to hold them. And we go, okay, cool. That, hindsight's 2020. Marketplace is still functional and super useful, but it's not as important as it was maybe 18 months ago.
And I guess the supplementary question to that is, what are some of the biggest things you've learned along the way? I always like getting guest perspective on, the coffee side of things, but also the business and or life side of things. So, what are some pearls of wisdom you can give out there on your experience?
No one knows what they're doing is the pearl of wisdom. And no one's going to hand you the keys and say, now's the time, go start it. Go get that job or go have a crack at that or do that. No one's going to hand those things to you. So it's accountability is the biggest thing I've learned, being willing to hold yourself accountable to what you're trying to achieve, but then also being willing to forgive yourself or, kind of work with yourself when maybe things haven't gone the way you planned or the way you hoped. But I think we're lucky in the coffee industry. It's so collaborative. We have so many people who want to help and want to see change that if you are open and honest with them, then they'll give back to you. So collaboration and accountability would be my.
And now let's get some name dropping. Who are some of the big dogs you're working with? Who are some of the cool cats that you can name here on the pod? Impress us.
So we've got cornerstone partners who were with us before it was a software. Mm-hmm. So these were guys who were like, hey, we're going to try and solve this problem. Can I get your help? And they were like, yes. So we have Sukafina, which is, I think, the third largest coffee importer in the world. We work with their Asia Pacific team. We have Project Origin. Yanina, an absolute legend, has spent time with me over maybe the last 3 or 4 years, just listening to my rambles and having a kind of play around with different software features. We have Danny Vella and the guys from Inter America. My shout-out clause is gone. I've already used them all.
I was about to say.
My shout-out clause is gone. But honestly, the biggest thing is that those importers, and there are so many more, are amazing at what they do. And the fact that they're trying to assist us in creating a solution is super inspiring as well. Yeah, we got great roasters. There is roasters who are helping us as well.
That was more of a name drop card, so you've used up your shout out. That was the name drop section.
You've still got an allocation in the shout out budget, so you got one. Yeah. If you're gonna completely different direction now, if you're gonna have coffee with one person dead and one person alive, who you having?
Well, first he'd kill you, and then he'd have coffee with you.
That sounds a bit intense, but oh man, I don't know. That's really hard. I'm trying to think what category. I'd probably go sport or music, to be honest. Alive. This is neither sport nor music, but Maty Matheson.
Oh, yeah.
Huge.
So Maty Matheson's I'm a big fanboy of his stuff and what he does, and I just like it. I think he has a little coffee brand in the States or in Canada now.
Oh, I didn't know that. Does he have a coffee brand?
Yeah, maybe that's another person to get on.
Yeah.
Who is that?
Checking right now.
Maty Matheson's an Instagram chef. If anyone watches The Bear.
You watch The Bear?
I was about to say.
He's the guy with the mustache, the big chunky guy.
Yeah.
He's
so
I love later season, he's playing in the Tweedledee and Tweedledum kind of role with
literally.
his mate.
Yeah. So Maty Matheson, he's someone alive I'd love to have a coffee with.
And he'd be one that's good because I feel like he'd actually be fun. When you're talking about it, you're that dude would be a fun bloke to sit down with.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I've found it here. It's Rink Drink Coffee by Maty Matheson.
Let's get Maty on the pod.
Yeah, man.
Let's get Maty Matheson. Let's get that rink dink in our sink.
You are invited. You are invited.
It doesn't work at all, but thank you.
Can I introduce a little scandal that happened few days ago at the cafe.
God. Oh my God, I love a scandal.
So let me set the scene for you. It's Saturday afternoon, and a barista's delight is when it's kind of quiet in the last half an hour to half an hour, and you can sort of pack things up and get things out ready to roll. Yeah, and it's just like, you know, you can pack things up, you're heading off early, things are great. So I had a couple come in the other day, 2:58, close at 3, 2:58 p.m, couple of oat lattes, yeah, no worries. At the door, dog takes a huge dump.
No, and that's all concrete.
And that's on concrete. To make it worse, though, dog also took a great big golden shower, if you like, over the dump. So now you've kind of softened it.
That was my first question was, what was the, like, it sounds horrible to say, but my first thought was, what's the viscosity?
Oh, yeah.
That totally changes everything.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It went from sort of, you know, picnic bar to more chocolate mousse type scenario.
Oh,
Wait,
no.
what dog is taking a dump and then being like, now I'm peeing on it? I've never seen that in my life.
I don't know what breed it was, but it was like a Shiba Inu, but large one.
That's an Akita.
Okay, all right. So anyway, and the owner's just like, I'm so sorry. And I was just like,
Well, you're cleaning it up.
well, no. Well, they scooped up a bit, but there was some leftovers. Let's just say there was some leftovers.
They needed to wipe it up.
Yeah, well, that's to my next point. What's the etiquette on that? You know, if your dog takes a dump, do you need to? Are you and a you know, who's responsible for cleaning that?
It is 100% the dog owner and like doing that. And I'm also the one who's like, I get so nervous. Like I'd be so embarrassed with that stuff. I'd be in there like, let me get a mop, or do you have something that I can help me out with?
Oh, these people are out of town. They got their own lattes.
They just left.
Did they address it?
They apologized, which is like kind of like I can understand their position. They're just like, shit, what do I do? But I mean,
I suffer way too much from hospitality guilt.
Same.
Like I wouldn't be able to walk into a shop if they're busy. Like I just couldn't deal with that.
but
I'd do the dishes because I felt so bad.
this dog had a high fiber diet. You know, this thing was massive. It was no small feat. I was kind of impressed.
Yeah,
I'm
well.
like, geez. But I just wanted everyone's opinion on that.
No, well, I mean, obviously, we'll turn this into a clip or a reel. So let us know below in the comments. What do you think? Whose responsibility is
Who's
this
responsible
fall
for that?
into?
You know, if the dog's doing business inside the cafe or outside.
We had one. I was with my partner. We were in like Thornbury, and there was a guy sitting out the front with his dog under the table, and it just did like explosive diarrhea. Just like, I mean, like liquid bar. And like, you know, that's hard to clean up. The guy just sits there and he's like, oh, and then just continues having his breakfast, sitting there like there's just like diarrhea running down like the sidewalk while and it just stunk. We got up and left. We were just like,
well, that's the thing. This thing was very pungent.
Yeah.
You know, it
especially
stunk
once
bad.
it gets peed on, it like breaks that layer. Like, you know, it opens it all up.
Oh yeah. We got the Zelda cooking. It was.
Oh, it needs that. What was
The
the
bad
one where you
one.
fail? Yeah, that one.
That guy.
It was.
If anyone votes that it's the cafe's job, no.
Yeah.
No one's allowed to, like, I don't want to tell people what to do, but it's not the cafe's job to do
Yeah.
that, like, at all.
You're getting cancelled.
Yeah, cancel me, dog owners. I own a dog.
But you brought up something interesting that you said before, hospitality guilt. Because I'm someone that's worked in hospitality, my idea of going to bars, restaurant, cafes when I'm with friends, with family and that is so different, and I get so on edge. Like the walking in where it's like the wait to be seated thing, and you have the people in your party, they're just like walking up to tables. Like, I'm like, no, you just wait till they'll seat us. You know, they've got a plan, and everyone's just going in, pulling up seats, sitting down.
I stack the dishes as well.
Yeah,
You know,
100%.
and you know, I separate the cutlery, I separate the layers. I'm like, this is a functional, you know, thing to carry back.
Yeah, I've been through hell in that hospo world, so I'm always like, whatever I can do to help as the customer.
The worst is when you're with a group of people and you're at the table and the waiter is kind of calling out, oh, who got this? And no one answers.
Oh my
It
God.
melts. Like, I literally have like an anxiety attack.
Dude, the person who won't say, like, they're not paying attention and the waiter's calling out their dish drives me insane.
We had someone come in at the shop the other day and they're like, oh, well, I need 20 coffees. And then right at the end, like, oh, can you write their individual names on each coffee? I'm like, can you just remember what you ordered? You know, that'd be nice. You know, because it adds an extra layer of complication that we just don't need. But we need to get, geez, I'm speechless now.
Nice.
We need to get through to we've got 2 more segments to go. Next one's rapid fire questions.
Here we go.
So I'm going to
One of my
ask you
favorite
20
segments.
questions.
Fire away.
In a minute. Last week, Jay Jennings absolutely pumped it.
Oh.
I'm going to see if you can do the same. So I've kept it
No
20.
chance.
Next week, we're going up to 30. So are you ready?
No, but let's go.
All right. Liam?
Hey, it's just
Here we go.
And your time starts now.
Cold brew, yes or no?
Yes.
Washed or natural?
Natural.
Co-fermented coffees, yes or no?
Yes.
Geisha or Coutura?
Coutura.
Lord of the Rings or Star Wars?
Lord of the Rings.
Filter or espresso? Controversial.
Filter.
7-Eleven or Coles Coffee?
7-Eleven.
Instant or McDonald's?
Instant.
Mo Salah or Luis Suarez?
Mo Salah.
Soccer or basketball?
Soccer.
Audi Blend or Vittoria?
Audi.
Instagram or TikTok?
Instagram.
Favorite cuisine?
Indian.
Ramen or pho?
Ramen.
Soy, oat or almond?
Oat.
Favorite Pokemon?
Bulbasaur.
Jurgen Klopp or Alex Ferguson?
Jurgen Klopp.
Coffee Goat?
Coffee Goat. Ann Cooper.
Rohan or Kirk?
Kirk.
Lance or Hoffman?
Hoffman.
Yeah!
I'm sorry.
All right.
You're lovely, Rohan, but
Anyway, that's all we have time for on this week's episode. It's just
So that's not even my favorite answer to the whole thing. My favorite answer was
the McDonald's or
no. My favorite answer was his favorite cuisine,
Indian food.
Oh,
Yeah.
And last week, Indian as well. And this guy.
I panicked because as soon as I said it, I was like, wait, that's second.
Oh, what's first?
Freak.
Oh, there you go.
It just didn't pop in my head, but
All right. Well,
Sorry.
Yeah, as Rohan was saying, pack her up, boys.
I got so nervous. I was like, I've never been on a trivia quiz show. What do I do?
You know what I've
nervous.
never seen? Greek-Indian fusion.
I'm here for it. I'm all here for it.
That could be spicy.
Yeah. Like a...
Is that another
a
poll? That
lamb
could be
curry
spicy?
gyro?
I'm in.
At
could
what
be-
point, like, does mixing cuisines become like, cut it out? You know, leave it. You
Well, I
know
love
what
a good Asian fusion, I got to say.
I mean?
Yeah.
Actually, so xiaolong bao or ravioli?
Ravioli.
Oh,
Yeah, no, my man.
But I will say, like anything in life, you have the question of like, when is fusion too much or enough? It's like, like anything in life, when it's done poorly, everyone's like,
Yeah.
enough, this is
Yeah.
crap, it's enough with the fusion. And then when someone does it well, people are like, this is amazing. So it's like,
You're a
just don't do it
genius.
poorly and
Yeah.
you're fine.
You'll know when you know.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
when
yeah.
it's not right, that's there.
You're looking a bit red.
Mate, I think I got a bit upset. I think I'm getting a little flustered and a little hot because you said that you'd pick Kirk
You're-
over me.
you're-
And there was, out of all the questions, that was the least hesitation I saw.
I'm sorry.
Kirk over Rohan.
You're looking red too.
Yeah.
Liam, it's getting a bit pink up there too.
It
A
is
bit
getting
hot.
I thought it was just that. It's getting a bit sweaty. It's time for an extra hot take with 2 sugars. 2 sugars.
All right. Well, it's time for everyone's favorite segment in all of podcasting history ever. I extracted one hot take with 1 sugar out of you.
Yep.
It's time for you to give your next hot take with 2 sugar. So what we ask you to do is stare down the barrel. We'll go this barrel here. What's
My
your
good
extra hot take with 2 sugars?
The coffee market has changed forever and it's not going back. So what can we do?
Ooh. That's not one that's like immediately spicy for me. It's kind of like, what do you mean, Caleb?
Yeah, well, I kind of buried,
This is a slow
buried the
cooker.
lead a little bit. But
How has it changed and what is it not going back to?
so the green coffee market, we mentioned earlier, it's traded as a commodity. It's at the like record highs for the last 15 years. And every single day, every roaster's like, when's it going down? When's it going down? It's not. It will settle. There will be less volatility, but it's not. And we're seeing more and more that roasters are just having to be aware of that and how to handle it. Traditionally, markets have been driven by, supply demand speculation, and largely from Western consuming countries like regions like North America and Europe and Australia a little bit. But now we're seeing emerging middle class markets in Asia and even in like South America and African markets consuming higher quality coffee. They're building their markets, especially like China as a great example, is building their specialty coffee market right now on a high market, and they're not afraid to buy. So last year, China went from the 20th largest purchaser of Brazilian coffee to the 6th in 1 year. And that's just the sign that their market's being built on a higher base than ours. So ours is trying to fight back to the $1.20 USD per pound, but we're not going to get back there. So we need to start planning, we need to start budgeting and
If there are other places that are going to spend more money, guess what? They're going to sell to them.
Exactly. So it's just one of those things that it's literally the biggest question I get in my role is when's the market going back?
So if you really wanted to be a hot take, you need to be like, China has changed the green buying industry forever.
I think for the good though.
Yeah.
To be honest, I think they've done a great job with it. But yeah.
Paying the money that should be paid for it.
Yeah. So that's spicy, I guess.
Well, no, that's a hot take with 2 sugars. We will take it. But I've got a scandalous one. Liam, which barrel am I staring down?
That guy as well.
Go to the right. Mm-hmm. All right. My extra hot take with 2 sugars is iced lattes should not be more expensive than hot lattes. Now, the reason being is because you're kind of just injecting the same ingredients.
100%.
Where I think there might be a slight discrepancy in price is because you don't install the correct ice machine in your cafe. And so you don't actually have enough ice. And then you have to go and buy more ice. So yeah, your costs are more expensive. But I'm not going to shamelessly plug a ice machine company, Hoshizaki.
You would never.
But iced lattes should not be more expensive than regular lattes. Iced long blacks, sometimes they should not be the same price as an iced latte because you're adding more expensive coffee. So don't be that smart ass customer that's like, you know what, I can enact the bartering system on you in a cafe right now to your 16-year-old server. It's the price, but they should not be more expensive than regular lattes.
Well, could you make the argument that they should be cheaper? Because you're not steaming milk or doing anything. You're just dumping it in a cup.
Well, you could make the argument, but it's not a strong one.
I think it's a pretty strong one.
Well, I mean, right now...
My hot take is, you're a dick.
but right now, I always see TikToks and stuff about this and news articles about it, and I kind of agree. They shouldn't be so much more expensive. At the cafe I'm at, we just have the one size, and it's 16 ounces. But if you were to buy a 16-ounce coffee from us, it's $7, whereas the nice latte is $6.50.
Oh, there you
go. So we're actually doing it cheaper.
So I made the argument, and then you just said how you're doing exactly what I said. So it sounds like a pretty strong argument to me.
Yeah, but I'll probably bump the price up a little bit.
You just wanted to argue.
Dad fight. I'm in the middle of it. It's okay. It's all right. But I agree wholeheartedly.
Shut up and go to your bedroom.
I like that. Well, Rohan, what head are you packing this week?
Hot take. Stop spending your money on crazy expensive coffee machines at home if you're just a beginner. The Breville Joule Boiler is all you need. You don't need anything more than that. The reason why I say this is Joule Boiler, you get quality of both the extraction and the steam wand. But I've worked with beginners. The steam wand on that is powerful enough to texture milk well, but not so powerful that it's spinning it out of control. I see beginners in that spend money on these crazy expensive coffee machines and they can't even control the steam wand. It's flying up everywhere. They're over steaming it. It's bubbly. They're making a hot mess. If you're a beginner, Breville Joule Boiler is all you need in your kitchen.
Okay, well,
100%.
I'm going to inject a layer of spice to this that you probably didn't foresee. In 5 years' time, home coffee and espresso making, you'll be able to fit it all into a little lunchbox sized bag and it'll make consistently better coffee and there won't be the need for a lot of these home espresso machines.
Well, what do you mean? That will be the home espresso machine?
Not necessarily.
So there's an espresso machine in a bag?
Are you just pitching the switch? You used to have it plugged into your TV. Now you can take it anywhere.
Pre-brewed espresso, bro. And you guys.
Was anyone else following us out?
Yeah, but you also work with a company that does the milk steamer, right?
Yep.
What's that called?
The Subminimal, the Nanofoamer, and Nanofoamer Pro.
And so, if you've got espresso at that's a bottle, and you can,
and you're talking just milkies, right?
Yeah,
because you can't do it for the hot spreads.
Can't do it for hot, but
maybe they'll have something that agitates and heats up. Who knows? You could maybe have a little thing at home.
Yeah, maybe. But 5 years from now, it'll be like a little lunchbox. Carrying around, what you packing? I can take my coffee to school if you like.
Well, it's like what they say. Espresso is just the crema on top is the CO2. Chuck some espresso in a soda stream, gas it up with some CO2.
But yeah, anyway, sorry to hijack your hot take.
That's all right. Jumping in with another one. I love it.
You suck.
I'm going to. No. All right. Well, I think that probably brings us to the end of another amazing and what do I got to say there? Tantalizing.
Oh, I thought you were going to say titillating.
Titillating.
I was like,
I mixed tantalizing and titillating. Was like titillating.
You just looked
another
me
great
in the eyes
thing.
and said tits, and I was like, okay.
I'm there
Cool.
with you.
This is a family podcast, Caleb.
Yeah, please don't, even if I misspeak, please don't misrepresent me there. That brings us to another one. Where can people find you, look you up?
Instagram, greensquare.co. Everything's on there, guys. Check it out. We do like weekly news updates and insights about what's going on in the market as well.
Is anyone interested? Is there like little Q&As they can fill out? Is there something they can get in touch?
Yeah, all on our website as well. So www.greensquare.co. Everything's
And that's
there.
greensquare.co?
Greensquare.
So green like the color and then square the shape.
Yes.
Dot
all
co.
one word.
Greensquare.co. Okay, we got it there.
Are you on the
Perfect.
TikTok?
No, I don't know. I like.
I'm not with the kids. Are
Actually, it makes me feel like an old man, but maybe I should. I don't know. I'm trying to do more social media because like we're a startup, so we can't afford social media and I just have to do it myself. But we're trying, all right? Forgive my horrible angles and audio quality.
All right. Well, make sure to tune in next week. If you have any questions that you want to ask us, make sure to reach out at hello@itsjustcoffeepod.com. I'm Rohan Cook.
And I'm Kirk Pearson.
And it's just coffee.
Love it.
Sweet.
Thank you, Caleb.
Thanks, boys.
Thank you.